Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, we slice through the noise, get you the essentials from the gaming world, and you know that feeling, right? A new mech, a new weapon drops in Mech Arena, especially when they slap Tier 10 on it or call it game-changing. I've felt that pull. While it starts vibrating, you're picturing just like total domination, that instant, oh, I need that thing. It's strong. But, well, as we often find out, the shiny new stuff doesn't always cut it when you're deep in the meta. So that's what we're doing today, a real deep dive into two recent Mech Arena additions, the Silverthorn mech and the Reaver 8 weapon. Our mission, for you listening, is to cut through all that initial hype. We're going to break down the stats, look at what the abilities actually do, and figure out, are they worth your A coins? With your time. At different points in the game. You know, we're talking about the meta, what actually works, what dominates, and seeing how these newcomers measure up. Get ready, because there are some surprises here.
Absolutely. And we've pulled together a lot for this. We're looking at recent reviews, some deep dives from test servers, and of course the Mech Arena knowledge base itself. So it's not just about first impressions. We're really trying to get at the long-term strategic fit or, lack thereof. We want to make sure you have the full picture before you spend those precious A coins or sink hours into grinding blueprints.
Okay, let's start with the big one, Silverthorn, the mech that supposedly kicks off Tier 10. It's billed as a heavy attacker. Max energy is 32. That's top tier, usually for the really heavy hitters. And yeah, the base stats, they look pretty solid on paper. Movement speed is 23 km for a heavy. That's actually decent. Like 20 kilometers is kind of the baseline for feeling okay. So 23 is pretty good mobility for its class. And health, wow, it's a tank. Actually has more HP than Gatecrasher, Deathwalker, even Dreadnought. Those guys are around, 615k? Silverthorn beats that. So top tier bulk. Sounds amazing, right? Durable high energy Tier 10. What's the catch?
Well, the catch, like always it seems, is in the details, specifically its unique ability. Silverthorn throws these 5 high-speed daggers up to 100 meters. Reviews say they're not difficult to hit with. And with a legendary implant, those essential upgrades, they can hit for up to 56,000 damage. That's a decent chunk right away. Plus they slow enemies. 3.5 seconds of slow adds some control. And then there's this additional damage thing. After a few seconds, based on the initial hit, it can add up to 60,000 more damage.
Okay, hold on. So daggers slow, deal damage, then deal more damage later. That sounds nasty. A fast-ish heavy mech, super tanky with that ability. I'm picturing it just locking down areas. Maybe this Tier 10 hype is actually real for once.
Oh, and here's where it gets, really interesting. And maybe a bit of a letdown. That big number, the 60,000 additional damage. The key thing, the blink and you miss it insight here. It's static at all levels. It just doesn't scale up at all. Think about that for the end game. Now look, if you're running it at, say, 4 stars, yes, 60k is decent damage. It'll sting opponents with less health, but zoom out, look at the max rank picture. Enemies there, they've got 500,000 health, maybe more, especially with defensive modules stacked on. Suddenly that 60k, it's absolutely insignificant, like barely noticeable, a tiny little tickle. And what's maybe more critical here is how vulnerable it is. That ability, the bonus damage part, it gets completely blocked by modules that protect against these effects. We're talking specifically about the Galvanic module, Module D. That module designed to absorb bonus damage, crits, ability damage, all that stuff. It gives up to 80% extra resistance based on the mech's health. So if your target has Galvanic, poof, Silverthorn's extra damage gimmick is just gone, nullified. Which means Silverthorn is really more effective if you play at a 4 or 5 star level. Before everyone starts running those mandatory rank 6 modules.
Wait, so even with all that health, the speed, the slow, one common module just neuters its main damage trick? That feels like a huge bait and switch for players, doesn't it? You think you're getting this awesome Tier 10 powerhouse, but its signature move becomes kind of pointless exactly when you reach Tier 10 play? That seems flawed.
Seriously, flawed.
Exactly. That's the harsh reality we're seeing from the reviews and the testing data. Despite the shiny label, despite the base stats, the verdict is pretty clear. Silverthorn is absolutely not worth that Tier 10 slot. It's widely considered quite useless at high ranks. Yeah. If you actually want high damage, the community consensus points elsewhere. Think about Volt and its drone that can pump out like 216,000 damage reliably. Or Onyx, hit someone in the back, 180,000 double damage, firing every 7 seconds. Those options just deliver far more consistent, scalable damage that actually matters against tough opponents. Right, it's like bringing a beautifully crafted, very expensive spork to a gunfight. Looks cool, maybe has a neat feature, but ultimately not the right tool. I can almost hear the marketing pitch. Tier 10. And just hoping nobody looks too closely at the actual high-level performance. The review even suggested it might be more intended for marketing to new players. They see Tier 10, they get excited, they don't realize the limitations yet.
Yeah.
For now, it's definitely not even a situational mech. Maybe they'll buff it later if people complain enough. Sources mention that possibility, but don't hold your breath. As it stands today, it's a hard pass for serious high-rank hangers. All right, moving on from the mech itself, let's talk about the weapon that arrived with it, the Reaver 8. Okay, so this is an assault weapon, fires fast, 1.5 seconds, reloads even faster, 0.8 seconds. That's a quick turnaround. Range is decent, up to 78 meters with an implant. But the headline feature, the thing that jumps out, a 70% critical hit chance. 70%, that's incredibly powerful, right? Just constant crits popping off. But I'm sensing another but coming. You've got that look again.
There's always a but, isn't there? And yes, this time it leads us straight back to our old friend, the galvanic module. Much like with Silverthorn, this weapon's big selling point, it just plummets in value the second enemies start using galvanic consistently. Remember, galvanic absorbs bonus damage. And crits, their bonus damage, usually deal double damage, right? But galvanic just soaks up that extra by 1 damage portion.
Yeah.
So the Reaver's main strengths, its whole identity, neutralized. This weapon built around crits suddenly isn't critting effectively anymore against prepared opponents.
So the entire reason you'd pick this weapon, that massive crit chance, gets shut down by a module lots of experienced players already have equipped. That is incredibly frustrating if you invest resources into it, especially when 70% sounds so incredibly tempting.
It really is frustrating. Now, to be fair, in tests where enemies don't have galvanic, especially at those closer ranges, the Reaver 8 actually performs quite well. Community reviews often mention it's not inferior to miniguns in terms of burst damage. Miniguns are known for steady damage, but need implants for their long reloads. So Reaver 8 is good for hit-and-run tactics. Pop out, burst damage, get back in cover. This makes it a potentially good transitional weapon when moving through tiers. Solid performance for players maybe not yet facing full rank 6 loadouts, or maybe in specific events.
Okay, transitional. But what about those high-tier players, the ones who are running maxed galvanics? What happens then?
Yeah, the moment you test it against mechs with max galvanic modules, the picture changes dramatically. Suddenly, it's just not special anymore. The weapon designed around crits loses its entire advantage, so the consensus and knowledge base, the experienced players. Pretty clear. It's not worth the investment for playing above rank 6, because that's exactly when galvanic becomes standard issue for anyone serious about competing. Sure, it might be a very reasonable situational weapon that will find its buyer for specific low to mid-tier uses, but a long-term meta choice for high ranks, no. If you need reliable damage up there, you're probably better off with something like Carbane 8s, or even, the trusty Arc Torrent 6s, weapons whose damage isn't so easily negated by one module. So yeah, connecting these dots, Silverthorn and Reaver 8.
We see this pattern, right? There's this big gap between the hype, the marketing push for new stuff, and the actual reality of the mech arena meta. Just because it's new, shiny, maybe even says Tier 10, doesn't mean it's actually good or meta-defining for players who know the game.
And a huge part of that is Mech Arena's whole progression system, and especially these module mechanics. Modules like Galvanic aren't just small tweaks. They fundamentally change how weapons and abilities work. They act as hard counters sometimes. And this really matters when you think about A-coins. For free-to-play players, A-coins are scarce. You grind hard for them. And blueprints. Getting enough to max things out takes forever. So investing badly, like dumping resources into Silverthorn or Reaver 8, thinking they're endgame gear, that can lead to long and ineffective progression. It seriously sets you back. It's not just a small mistake. It's potentially weeks, maybe months, of grinding wasted on something that won't compete later.
And that's the real takeaway, isn't it? It's not just about chasing the newest release, it's about understanding what actually works against the defenses people are running. It forces you to be way more strategic with your resources. I remember when I started, I wanted every cool new legendary thing, thought it would make me instantly better. Learned the hard way how fast those game changers end up collecting dust in the hangar when the meta shifts or you hit a wall of counters. This whole discussion just highlights how crucial it is to understand the deeper mechanics, the meta, before you spend those hard-earned A-coins. The game design, especially those big power spikes around rank 6, it makes modules and implants absolutely vital. It's not just about getting the new thing, it's about getting the right thing for your strategy, something that can actually hold its own. So let's wrap this deep dive up. Key takeaways: Silverthorn looks great on paper, Tier 10, high health. But its static ability damage and vulnerability to common modules, especially Galvanic, make it pretty much unsuitable for high-rank play. And the Reaver 8 weapon, that amazing 70% crit chance sounds fantastic, but again, Galvanic module says nope, significantly reducing its effectiveness against prepared opponents. Both are really clear examples of new stuff that just doesn't quite make the cut in the established top-tier meta.
Yeah, and that leads us to this sort of provocative thought. something for you to chew on as you keep playing Mech Arena. What does it actually mean for the game's future when new, supposedly high-tier content gets countered so easily by defenses that are already common? Does it push developers and players towards real innovation, finding new ways around defenses, or does it just reinforce the idea that you have to stick to the established meta counters, that novelty isn't rewarded? Maybe it's about encouraging investment in modules, maybe it's just a design oversight. But whatever the reason, as you choose your upgrades, always ask yourself, is this genuinely the best thing for my hangar right now? Or is it just the latest shiny object designed to grab my attention and maybe my A-coins?